Yathakam satadid ganam Kadahima Maharatna Vimana Satasankulam Yushtam Punya Janastribhir Yathakam Satadid Ganam. Everybody, please. Energies. No problem. You don't want to try? It's Vimana Shatta Sankulam Yushtam Punya Janastribhir Yathakam Satadid Ganam. Bhāgavatam is called Punya Shravana Kirtana, which means even if we don't understand the language of it, just by hearing it, it's auspicious. But it's also important to understand the language. So, Om Jnana Timarna Sagananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Umilitamyena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupakadamayam Tadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Tapadakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunatham Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radhakrishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamscha. Everyone can chant. Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagapate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhanu Sute Devi Hanamami Hari Pre Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sinubhe Vacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasani Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Lokum Karoti Vachalam Bhagamam Gaite Giram Yakripatamaham Vande Shri Guru Devatarnam Paramananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanya Ishwaram Hari Om Tat Sat. Tarda Hema of pearls and gold, Maharatna, valuable jewels, Vimana, of airplanes, Shata, with hundreds, Sankulam, crowded, Jushtam, occupied, enjoyed, Punya Jana Stribihi, by the wives of the Jakshas, Yatha, as, come, the sky, Sartadit Ganam, with the lightning in the clouds. Translation in purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. The airplanes of the heavenly denizens are bedecked with pearls, gold, and many valuable jewels. The heavenly denizens are compared to clouds in the sky, decorated with occasional flashes of electric lightning. The airplanes described in this verse are different from the airplanes of which we have experience. In the Srimad Bhāgavatam and all the Vedic literatures, there are many descriptions of Viman, which means airplane. On different planets, there are different kinds of airplanes. On this gross planet, there are airplanes run by machine, but on other planets, the airplanes are run not by machine, but by mantric hymns. They're also especially for enjoyment by the denizens of heavenly planets, so they can go from one planet to another. On another planet, which are called Siddhalokas, the denizens can travel from one planet to another without airplanes. The beautiful airplanes from the heavenly planets are compared here to the sky because they fly in the sky. The passengers are compared to clouds, and the beautiful damsels, the wives of the denizens of the heavenly planets, are compared to lightning. In summations, the airplanes with their passengers, which came from higher planets to Kailash, were very pleasant to look at. Tarahima Maharatna Vimana Shata Sankulam Yushtam Punyajana Stribir Yatakam Satardid Ganam. The airplanes of the heavenly damsels are bedecked with pearls, golds, and many valuable jewels. The heavenly damsels are compared to clouds in the sky, decorated with occasional flashes of electric lightning. So we're here in chapter 6 in the 4th canto. Daksha's been decapitated, and many of his lackeys and his friends and many different demigods, they all got beaten up. They're all in bandages, and they made their way to Lord Brahma, all sad and wondering what to do. And so Lord Brahma is like, "Well, you guys deserve to die. You're lucky you're still alive. And if you want to actually deserve to live, because now you deserve to die, you don't deserve to be living, then you should go actually apologize to Lord Shiva because you all messed up." And so Lord Brahma is then bringing all of us, when we're hearing the Bhagavatam, he's bringing all of us to Shiva's special abode, Kailash. And it's said in the Brahma Samhita, Goloka Namni Nijadamni Tale Chatosya Devi Mahesha Dameshu Teshu Teshu Tete Prabhava Nichaya Vihichaschayena Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Pajami. So Govinda, who Lord Brahma is worshipping, his Dham is the highest, like higher than the rest. And basically he's saying there's Devi Dham, then Mahesh's Dham, then Hari's Dham. So Devi Dham is where we're at right now. We're in Durga's Dham in the material world, where there are some nice things. Even this Dham, there's different places. Like you can go all the way down, and there's very terrible places, or you can go up, and maybe, how would we like to go to Indra's gardens and enjoy there for a while, or to Lord Brahma's place? Like all that is within the confines of Devi Dham. But then it said higher than that is Mahesh Dham. So that now we're hearing about Mahesh Dham or Kailash, and it's saying so many different things we've heard over the past couple of days. Many wonderful kinds of gardens and wonderful cities, and all these different good smelling flowers. And now we're hearing about these amazing airplanes that are controlled by your mind, that can bring you to different planets just for enjoyment, that have all kinds of jewels on them. But then higher than all of them is Haridam. So what's the point of hearing the Bhagavatam? The point of hearing the Bhagavatam is to hear how great Krishna is. And in different kinds of different kinds of speech, there's different kinds of like arguments. Like you have the logic of the half hen, which, sometimes farmers will have this logic that they like the hen that lays the eggs out the back, but they don't like the part of the hen that eats the food in the front. And so they wish they could just cut the head off the front of the hen and just have the back and have it lay eggs without having to feed it. And there's many different logics. One logic that at least that I saw in, the Bhāgavatam describing here in the 4th canto, Lord Shiva's Dham is the logic of Kim Punar, which is the logic of what to speak of, which means it tries to show you a lesser thing, and that if that lesser thing can do something, or if it's not able to do something, you want to speak of a greater thing. Like an example, like, even like the village, the village carpenters can defeat us in argument, then what to speak of the Brahmins? Or if a single elephant can't fit in your room, then what to speak of a herd of elephants? So the logic here is, if Lord Shiva's abode is so amazing, then what to speak of Lord Krishna's abode? So when we're hearing about this, we should be thinking about this. Like, this is the goal. And Vimanas, when I think about Vimanas, I think about so many different things. Actually, there's many great German Sanskritists, and he had them go to India and try to get these different shastras, especially like Vimana-related shastras. The Prabhupada says in the purport, and the Srimad Bhāgavatam and all Vedic literatures, there's many descriptions of the Vimana. So Hitler wanted to try to take advantage of the Vedic literature and develop his own Vimana to like have superiority over the gross Earth planet airplanes that were currently available at that time. And so there was one Werner von Braun that actually said he used the Vimana Shastras, and he came up with his missile, like all the common weapons that are in every major military. The missile that was invented by Werner von Braun, and he got inspiration from Vimana Shastra, and now Elon Musk with his rockets and everything. That's all coming. That's just some basic form of Vimana. But there's more advanced technology that our society at large hasn't mastered or figured out yet, where just by thinking or just by saying some certain mantra, that some gigantic machine can fly in the sky. And so we hear about so many, even in the Bhagavatam, we hear about, can you guys think of any time that you heard about a Vimana? I have 3, but let's see if we can, maybe there's more than 3, and Prabhupada says many times, but that's now my challenge to you, because it looks like everyone's falling asleep. So if you're thinking about what you heard, you won't fall asleep. What about the senior devotee? You remember anything from the Bhagavatam where there's a airplane? In the Ramayana, there was airplane? Where? I don't remember. I never read the Ramayana. I mean, I'm sure there's many different times. Dhruva Maharaj gets picked up. Oh, I didn't have that one down. I just remembered that the Vishnu Dutas would come. They come in airplanes, right? To pick everyone up. I was thinking of someone else. Michael, you don't really know the Bhagavatam yet, right? Yeah, I was thinking of Ajamil. Ajamil is about to go to hell, but luckily, Narayan! He said, he's calling his son, but he's also thinking of the Lord. So the Vishnu Dutas come, and they say, okay, Yamadutas, you guys can kick rocks. This guy is with us. But they don't take him back right then. They say, okay, you have to finish out your bhajan. And he does it. And then they come back and then they take him. And he recognizes, those are the same wonderful people that protected me from the Yamadutas. They're now they're coming to save me. Okay, so, and Dhruva Maharaj said he stepped on the head of death just like it was a stair to his Vimana. Something like that, right? Was that? That was like famous thing I remember. Okay. Is that it? That's the only 2, just Ajamil and Dhruva, and that's the Bhagavatam has no more in this verse. Michael, you want to guess? Okay, they talk about airplanes in Vaikuntha, yeah, and Prabhupada doesn't even mention the Vaikuntha. He just mentions the Siddhalokas, heavenly planets. Like the Siddhalokas, they don't even need airplanes. They just use mantras. Yeah, Sachin? Yeah, those like the Pushpa Vimana, right? Just like a flat, like when I was hearing jewels and gems, one realization I had is that actually in some way, like flowers are more are in some ways more special than gems, because you can buy a gem and you always just have it. Like I buy, let's say I buy like a big pearl necklace and has diamonds and gold and all this stuff in it. Like I can put it on every single day. Um, I guess after some time you need to clean it. This completely enlightens him, and he becomes a transcendental superstar doing kirtan tour with all his Vijayadaris, all his different, he has like a whole, group that are on planes. All right, so I guess we're just gonna have like a bad sound because there's no battery. Did the stream die? All right, whatever.
No, it's working. What do you mean it doesn't work?
No, it doesn't charge through that.
This gets charged by this? I see.
It's good. Okay, so to finish up King Chitraketu's story, he was on his tour. He had a special vimana, and on that vimana was all the Vidyadhari women, and they were going on a Sankirtan tour. And they ended up, they also went to Lord Shiva's place in Kailash. But then Chitraketu was made a funny little joke about Lord Shiva, because it was kind of like Lord Shiva was just there, and Lord Parvati is like half naked, just sitting on his lap. And then there's all these sages, like all these celibate sages that are like listening to them, like Lord Shiva discourse. So he like cracked a joke about it. He was like, "What the heck is this?" Like imagine if I was here and like I had like a girlfriend sitting on my lap, like telling her, "Yes, you should be celibate and you should do that." Like it would be really weird. And so that's King Chitraketu, and then he do that. Mother Parvati was like, "Oh, you're just a rascal. Only demons talk like that. Therefore, you should become a demon." And that's how he got there. He's like, "Okay, I could counter curse her or whatever," but Lord Shiva's like, he's the man. And you were a little too hard on him, please, And he's like, "It's okay. I'll do it." And he took the body of a demon, and actually, it was the Lord's pastime, because if you really love the Lord, He wants you back with Him millions of times more than you want to be back with Him. So the Lord realized if He just goes on this Sankirtan tour with all these Vidyadharis, He's going to do that for a long time, and it's nice enough that He won't really mind like just continuously doing it. So let me give Him some heavy thing so that He'll be back to me in one lifetime rather than 100. And so that was actually mercy of the Lord ultimately in the whole pastime. But that's another Vimana, just a random Vimana in the Bhāgavatam. And who knows about Ranganath Temple in South India, in Sri Rangam? So Lord Brahma wanted to worship the Lord, so he prayed. The Lord came down in his special Vimana, and then he just set the Vimana down, and that became the temple. And you can actually go see that today. Sri Rangam, the temple, is just the Vimana of one of the Lord Vishnu's Vimanas. Yeah, you can see a picture. It's really cool. And that was one of the Vimanas that like you'd have to, if you knew the mantras and you knew the way to pilot it, maybe you could drive it. But it's, when you get to technology that's that subtle and that amazing, monkeys like us, there's no reason, no doubt why we can't do that. And then you were saying in the Krishna book, Michael, you were saying yeah, I know. Okay. You were saying in the Krishna book that, what did you say in the picture? You see a Vimana where? Like, what would you see on the ground? Yeah, so the Vimana, the demigods are like trying to see Krishna's pastimes, which is wonderful. And when Krishna plays his flute, you hear about so many wonderful things. Like he plays his flute, and the peacocks immediately become crazy, and they when they see a new cloud, they'll like dance because they're really excited. And so when they hear the flute, they all start dancing. Or the animals, like the cows, when they see it, then they like just like stop eating grass. But then the things that are normally supposed to be stopped, like the rocks, they become liquid and they start like moving. Or like the water that's normally supposed to be going in the river, it hears Krishna's flute and it just stops. And one of the gopis is talking about how she's upset that their husbands are stopping them from seeing Krishna. And then she's like, look at the deer. When the deer hear Krishna's flute, they're right there with their husbands, and they all perk their ears up and like listen to it intently, and they all know what's going on, and they're happy with it. And look up in the sky, when the demigods and their wives are in the Vimanas, and they hear the flute, like even the demigod's wives, they get lusty from hearing the flute of Krishna, but the demigods don't mind. They continuously bring because they're like okay with their wives hearing the flute of Krishna. They want to see Krishna's pastimes. So it's not fair. Like, why are our husbands doing this? Like, all these other husbands are not doing that. And in that purport, or it's not a purport. I mean, I guess the whole Krishna book is a purport. But so in that chapter, Prabhupada says two things that I wanted to talk about. One is that it's significant that the gopis knew about the different kinds of airplanes flying in the sky, and that this means that the transcendental sound of the flute of Krishna extended to all corners of the universe, which I thought was I mean, it made me think of some things. Like sometimes it's said that the mridanga is the expansion of the flute. There's no like shastric evidence. Like you're not going to find that in. There's different shastras that'll tell you who's who in the Leela, Gora, Ganadesha, Deepika, and I think a couple other ones. They'll tell you like, oh, Lord Chaitanya is Radha and Krishna. You know, it's Krishna with Radharani's mood. Or like Lalita came down as Swarup Damodar, or like that. Vishaka came down as so on and so forth. And they'll tell you who's who in Krishna's Leela, who's in Gauranga's Leela. But they never say like Krishna's flute is the mridanga. Because there's but I would say that there's definitely there may not be a corroboration in Vedic literature, but there's definitely a correlation between the attractive qualities of Krishna's flute and the purpose of what it's doing, and maybe not just the mridanga, but what the mridanga represents, which is the Sankirtan movement. Like Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada called all the books in the printing press the Brihat Mridanga, or the loudest Mridanga, because it's basically, what is the Krishna's flute trying to do? It's spreading the glories of Krishna. Prabhupada's saying it's extending to all corners of the universe. And so, and definitely this in the Sankirtan movement, or the spreading of the glories of Krishna, the mridanga does play a big part of it, especially if you consider the words being a Brihat Mridanga. And, you know, the flute is just trying to attract everyone to Krishna. And so so when Prabhupada's saying that this transcendental sound extends to all corners of the universe, it's, you know, you could say even like we're like extensions of that. We kind of heard some words of Prabhupada or words of the Acharyas, and they're being inspired by the Krishna's flute to serve him, and then we get caught up in that, and then we want to inspire others to do that. And that's why we're all here today, right? I mean, there was a point when you didn't really want to serve Krishna in your life, and you had no idea who he was, and then you heard about his glories, and now you are starting to develop that desire to serve him and purify ourselves and make ourselves more qualified. And I recently was hearing a pastime of the flute that shows how like the flute can deliver different messages. Although Krishna is playing the same notes, it has a mystical effect when it goes to different people's ears. So even though like Prabhupada's words may not exactly sound like a melody on the flute, it says when Krishna, there's a place in Vrindavan, a tirtha called Venura, and because there was a very like specific, you know, extra special flute attraction that happened there. So Krishna played the flute, and it had different messages to suit the different devotional moods of everyone that heard it. So when the cows heard it, it told them, "Oh, don't go too far, just stay close to me." And the ones that had gone too far, it even individually called them back by names. Like, come back, you're too far. So they would all come back. And then there were some cowherd boys who had like gone to the forest to get a snack for everyone. And it's saying, I'm starving. How long are you going to take? And then they like quickly grab all the things and run back. And then Mother Yashoda's always in anxiety, and she's telling the different tailors and jewelers to like make things for Krishna. And then the flute's saying to her, "Oh mother, I'm doing okay. Don't worry. I'm just like having fun in the forest. I'm all healthy and nothing's wrong." So she felt pacified in her motherly love. And then of course, then the gopis, as they're doing their different chores, they heard their flute, and then Krishna is whispering to them, "Sometime soon, we're gonna have an arrangement to meet." So then it made them blush and like all embarrassed. So like that, the flute can give so many different messages. So for us in the material world, the flute, we don't have like all those devotees have ragatmika bhakti. They have complete absorption in love, and their desired object of love, Krishna. And so it has Krishna reciprocates with them. Yayatamam prapajante. It has a specific message. For us, who has relatively less of that or none of it, the flute has a different message. Which is what is coming. What Prabhupada is telling us. What I mean. The devotees remember what's like the first book they got. What's the first thing they heard that struck them philosophically? I want to hear from you all. Vasily, do you remember anything? But okay, but like you were like, do you remember like running into maybe not Prabhupada's words, but just any devotee's words? Like, what was like the first piece of philosophy that hit you and was like, wow, that's cool? Okay, that's nice. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I was just saying that to a guy last night, and oh, he was really he wanted to know all about Sandipani Muni. Who's the guru of Krishna? Sandipani Muni. And Krishna doesn't need a guru, but he takes a guru to show that that's the proper thing you should do. Because everyone else needs a guru. Actually, Krishna has a guru, but um, he took the position. He took Sandipani Muni as if he was his guru. But Krishna has another guru. Does anyone have an idea who Krishna's guru is? Oh, you spoiled it. That was too quick. Um, so Krishna's flute can deliver his message to all the devotees, and so we're all servants of that flute. And whatever we do, we should try to like echo that. And like the Bhāgavatam is always trying to proclaim how, like Adipurush Prabhu says, how wonderful is Krishna. Just like Kailash Dham is so wonderful, but it's just proclaiming that what to speak of Kailash Dham, how wonderful must Krishna's Dham be. Did I finish that point when I was making that? I don't think I did. Okay, well there it is. There it is. Sorry for the delay. And yeah, so that's the what to speak of logic, what to speak of Krishna's Dham. If Lord Shiva's Dham is so amazing, what to speak of Krishna's Dham? And so, and like I was saying before, these demigoddesses they were seeing and hearing Krishna's flute, and they were becoming lusty. And so I wanted to talk a little bit about hearing Krishna's pastimes and lust, because Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, lust is our best friend, right? Okay, good. You guys are falling asleep. I just want to make sure. Urgai, lust is our best friend, right? Lust is our best friend, right? Lust is our best friend. No? You disagree? Why? Yeah, that's true. Krishna says there's 3 gates to the hellish planets. What are they? We already got one, lust. Narmuni, you can't say anything. Okay, anger. Okay, you can't say anything. Greed. Lust, anger, and greed. So if we have lust, anger, and greed, where are we going? To Vaikuntha? To Radhakund? To Krishna's transcendental pastimes? Somewhere that's not that. But what if we have all those things and we try to enter into Krishna's pastimes with all those things? Like, no, but what happens? The Sahaja is just a word. Pretend, okay, yeah. Pretend. But what? Okay, so what if they say, oh, but there's a famous verse in the 10:33-39. Creedidum, something, something, something. And I'll say it in English. I don't have it memorized in Sanskrit. Anyone who faithfully hears or describes the Lord's playful affairs with the young gopis of Vrindavan will attain the Lord's pure devotional service. Thus, he will quickly become sober and conquer lust, the disease of the heart. So what if they say like that? Like these people are dressed up. Like, yeah, don't stop us. We have all this lust, anger, and greed, and we still want to enter in that. I'm quoting Bhāgavatam. Shukadeva Goswami said it was okay. This is how I conquer lust. But the thing is, they're hearing all these pastimes, but they're becoming more lusty, and they're getting, the Babaji has a couple side wives and different things that he has, and we have many terrible stories within ISKCON and outside of ISKCON of things like the Gopi Bhava Club, for example. The Gopi Bhava Club, their whole idea was like, oh, we stress so much about Gita and these things, but we don't stress about hearing Krishna Lila. So therefore, let's make a group to focus on Krishna Lila. But then they're having abortions. I'll just read like Prabhupada's quotes about it. So Prabhupada, sometimes they feel in ISKCON we're talking so much about the business of how to spread Krishna consciousness, but we're not talking enough about Krishna's pastimes. So they want to read all these pastimes. Prabhupada said, then let them read. But why are they making pregnant and abortion? What kind of Krishna Katha? The Krishna Katha test is, as soon as he gets the taste, he'll lose the material taste. What is this nonsense? Want to purify him? That's what they say, it'll purify me. Prabhupada said, what are you purified? You will become not purified, but putrefied. You can read, be purified. You can read, but where's your purification? So Prabhupada's getting at a point that that's ultimately the best thing that the soul needs to hear. But it says that fools rush in where angels fear to tread, that if we're not in the proper mood, and we hear that verse, you wonder, oh, then how can Shukadeva Goswami say that anyone, and if we read the commentary on that, it's really amazing. It says, even those who have lust, like you first have lust, then you hear the pastimes, then the lust goes away, which is how it works. But how can it say anyone who hears these pastimes? It says anyone who faithfully hears these pastimes. And so this word faithfully is expanded upon by our Param Guru and how do you say double Param Guru? Or our Parameshta Guru, which means Srila Prabhupada and Srila Prabhupada. So in the Antya-lila, it's said, when one hears or describes with great faith the pastimes of Lord Krishna, such as Ras dance with the gopis, the disease of lusty desires in his heart and the agitation caused by the three modes of material nature are immediately nullified, and he becomes sober and silent. So Lord Chaitanya is saying this, but then we have Saki Bekis, and we have all these different sahajas. You could go through all of them, Gauranga, and it's ridiculous things happen. And you have Babajis that are staying at Radhakund, but then have all these mistresses and smoking biddies and doing all these like disgusting lower mode things. They're not in transcendental consciousness at all, but they're talking about these things that should bring you into transcendental consciousness. So what the hell is going on? Like, does this process work at all? Does that make you guys lose faith? I mean, it should, until I explain it. Say you lost your faith. Because you already know. They're smoking cigarettes and weed and whatever. It doesn't matter. Smoking meth. Okay, but let's hear. Let's read, because I lost my faith completely. So I don't want to quit Christian consciousness. So let's hear what Prabhupada had to say, right? Like Sachin's about to leave. I'm about to leave. Urgai's about to leave. Divyangi's about to leave. Arjuna Nanda's about to leave. We can't leave, right? So let's hear Prabhupada's words, and maybe we'll stay. So Srila Bhakti Saraswati Thakur comments, any person seriously inclined to hear the pastimes of Krishna's rasa dance, as mentioned in Bhāgavatam, with great faith in a transcendental, spiritually inspired mind, is immediately freed from the natural lusty desires found within the heart of a materialistic man. So how does this work? When a pure Vaishnava speaks on Bhāgavatam and another pure Vaishnava hears, both of them live in the transcendental world where the contamination of the modes cannot touch them. Freed from the contamination, the speaker and the hearer are fixed in a transcendental mentality, knowing their position on the transcendental platform is to serve the Supreme Lord. But now he talks about this other class. There's another class of men known as Prakrita Sahajas, who consider the transcendental pastime of the Lord Krishna something like the behavior between a man and a woman in the material field, artificially thinking that hearing Ras Lila will help them diminish the lusty desires of their diseased hearts. But because they do not follow the regulative principles, but instead violate even ordinary morals, their contemplation of Ras Lila is a futile attempt, which sometimes results in their imitating the dealings of the gopis and Lord Krishna. And to forbid such habits of Prakriti Sahajas, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has excluded their material intelligence by using the word Vishvas, or faith. So when Shukadev Goswami says one who faithfully hears or describes the Lord's pastimes, that faithfully word is very, very important. Meaning that like what did Prabhupada give us? Like if we have faith in Prabhupada's words, then we're most likely following the 4 regulative principles. Not that it like says anywhere in the Bhāgavatam that you shouldn't. I mean, it probably does in some places, but the 4 regulative principles are not like necessarily. It's just like an assumed thing for someone that's on a transcendental platform. But if you forget those, then you become so lusty and so degraded that even like when someone becomes so diseased, sometimes you can't eat anything. But when we get to a certain level, then we can actually take the medicine. So Prabhupada's given us the specific diet or the specific treatment. We have to make sure that if we're following these 4 regulative principles properly, then we can at least start to take the medicine. But like all the hearing, basically, it's they said there's that's what faithfully means, against the lust. And otherwise, we're talking about Lord Shiva. So there's another verse in chapter 33 that Shukadeva is saying. So certainly, if you're not the supreme, then you should never, even in your mind, imitate the Supreme's Rasa Leela pastimes. But if you do, in ignorance you do, you'll be destroyed. Because if powerful people are doing powerful things, you can't imitate them. Like Lord Shiva, we're talking about here in Kailash, he's a powerful person, and he drank the ocean of poison, which a few drops of it have provided all the venom for all the, venomous snakes and all the kinds of different poisonous things. And he has the most of it, and he was able to just digest it, and it just turned his throat blue. That's all that happened. So if we're out of ignorance, we try to imitate these powerful personalities, we'll be completely destroyed. Like if we're like Lord Shiva tries to drink the ocean, if we try to drink any little amount of poison, we get completely destroyed. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur wrote a little verse, like kind of describing this, that the servants of Lord Hari, who revel in satisfying his transcendental desires, worship the path of spontaneous devotional service in a mood of awe and reverence. Basically, like all of these wonderful transcendental things we should keep them on our heads as our highest aspiration. But while maintaining and like thinking, okay, so if Krishna is the most transcendental, and these are the most transcendental things, if I absorb myself in these things and I'm not ready for it, let me absorb myself in what I'm qualified for. Like a lot of devotional service means you have to accumulate the proper sambandha gyan. And someone who was in the beginning of my Krishna consciousness was constantly like harping me, like, you just have to understand your position. Like understand your position. Where are you right now? What are you able to do right now for Krishna? You're not a gopi. That's not right now. Like if a gopi was right here right now, what would they do for Krishna? And we it may be hard to imagine, but we have some examples. We know Prabhupada was a transcendental resident of Vrindavan, so we saw what he did for Krishna. We know all the associates of Lord Chaitanya were transcendental residents of Vrindavan, and what did they do for Lord Chaitanya? And so it's said that the door to Vrindavan is hidden in Navadvip, which means that the amount that we worship, it's like, you're not going to get lusty desires inflamed by thinking about Lord Chaitanya's pastimes. he said women should even remain 50 feet away from him. And he was like a strict sannyasi. And it said the more that you absorb yourself in serving and hearing about Lord Chaitanya, the more automatically, because Lord Chaitanya is Radha Krishna Nahe Anya, the door to Vrindavan is in Navadvip, that you then automatically you get the Radha Rasa Shuddha Nidhi, that you get the that's like a famous book about Radharani, that you automatically understand and gain qualification to enter into the pastimes, rather than like the sahajas who just try to barge in. They just try to barge down the door, and then they don't get anything. They don't get Krishna. Like Ravana tried to steal Sita, but he didn't get that. Or the Babajis tried to bathe in Radhakund, but instead they bathe in Narak Kund. So that's, I mean, to summarize, we were talking about the different vimanas in the pastimes, and one of the vimanas was in Krishna's pastimes where he's playing the flute, and it makes the demigoddesses lusty. And so then I talked about lust and the relation of lust in Krishna's pastimes and hearing about them. And we talked a little bit about different vimanas, like Ajamil's vimana and Dhruva's vimana and Chittaketu's vimana. Narayan. Narayan's everywhere. He's even in this pillar. And so there's 3 minutes left. I would like to hear some comments from the esteemed devotees, starting with the senior-most devotees. If Urga has anything to say, or otherwise Param Brahma or Arjunananda. I think Divyangi is probably next in line. Arjunananda, you want to say, can you say just one transcendental word? Yeah, bring him the mic, Phil. I'm sure he has one thing to say. Or Param Brahma. Param Brahma, he just gave his blessings. Thank you.
Hari Bol.
Hari Bol. Actually, that's true. That's true. Okay, let me explain that. You might not have caught it. At the end of the Bhāgavatam, Shukadev Goswami is saying everything ultimately ends in chanting the holy name of the Lord. Which that means Hari Bol means Bol, say, Hari, the name of the Lord, which is Hari. So if we really want to enter into Lord Chaitanya's pastimes, and we really want to enter into Radha and Krishna's pastimes, then we have to enter into the holy name. Okay, Divyangi, what do you have to say about that?
I didn't get whether we can read pastimes or not. So wait, but okay, I guess.
Yeah, that's fine. I can
so you know, sometimes when you just read philosophy, I guess for guys it's okay because you guys like philosophy. But for me personally, like it becomes very dry, and then I just want to read some stories, and then you're saying that it's not alright, or is it alright?
Yeah, it's
where is the balance?
Yeah,
with this?
There's reading Leela is good, but we should read according to we should understand our position. One thing is Prabhupada said, like, first people should read and absorb themselves, like in the Bhagavatam. We have so many different chapters of the Bhagavatam. There's only like 5 or 6 chapters that are extremely intimate pastimes, but there's so many pastimes of Krishna that we can hear. Bhaktivinoda Thakur says that all the different pastimes we hear of Krishna killing demons are actually Guru and Krishna and ourselves through our different sadhanas eliminating different anarthas. So, Bhakti Saraswati Thakur saying that, you know, there's, you know, I guess we'll go back to Prabhupada. Prabhupada was saying, like, hear all Krishna's pastimes of killing the demon, his childhood pastimes. His childhood pastimes won't, they don't have the possibility to make lust happen. So we can hear those a lot more. And I mean, of course, we're hearing in the association of pure devotees who just have the desire to serve Krishna, and we find ourselves in the proper consciousness with the proper desire, then like Bhakti Saraswati Thakur said, we should not mistakenly consider anartha nirvritti as prayojana. For one thus surmising can never enter into artha pravritti. So anartha nirvritti means artha, the thing I want, unartha means the thing I don't want. So anartha nirvritti means getting rid of the things that I don't want. Then there is artha pravritti, getting those things that I do want. So he's saying anartha nirvritti is not the end goal, but our goal is to, if we just get stuck on that, we won't enter into the proper thing. So then he said, and then this is like after he was speaking on the Upanishads in Radhakund for a long time. And then, so he spoke a little bit about Krishna's Leela. He says, I know you're not ready to hear it, yet we should know that such a transcendental ideal exists within the realm of bhajan. This is why anartha nivritti is essential. After that comes artha pravritti. Namely, in the supramundane realm, there is service to the divine pastime couple. Without knowing this, all our efforts may end in voidism. So and then he's saying this is like a prescription. Let those who have chanted Harinam for 15 or 20 years hear such matters. Beginners need not hear these topics, for they would misunderstand. These subjects are all for Sevan Mukha listeners. So remember that verse? Jiva Hidad, oh, what is it? What's the whole sloka? Ata Shri Krishna Nama Di Na Bhaved Grayam Indrai Sevan Mukhe Ijivado Swayam Eva Spratya Da. So if we actually serving Krishna in the right mood, then we'll find that actually these pastimes will spontaneously come to us in one way or another. Not that we'll have to force our way in. Like I was saying, the door to Vrindavan is in Navadvip. So if we're serving Lord Chaitanya, we're serving Srila Prabhupada properly and with like good attitude, like serviential mood, then everything will come through that. And so I'll continue with the words of our Parameshta Guru. These subjects are for Sevan Mukha listeners, not for all. And then he quotes a Narottam Das Thakur bhajan. I will not speak here and there to anyone and everyone about my bhajan. Disregard of the instruction of our previous acharyas will cause a permanent fall from the realm of bhajan. Do not think that Ashtakalya Leela Smarana is the property of Prakrita Sahajas. It is actually our affair. It has to be retrieved from the hands of those cheaters. Our Guru Maharaj heard these things from Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur and in turn revealed to us various esoteric matters. We have heard the last instructions from our Sri Gurudev. Living in Radhakund would be pleasant if you could deliver it from the hands of 11 ungodly men. And then Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati quipped, perhaps now 11 has increased to 108. And even now it's maybe even more. And so, yeah, you're right. Without hearing the pastimes, everything becomes dry. And like Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said, it can end in voidism. You just become Buddhists that are just, no, I shall not do this. I shall not do that. I shall not eat this. I shall not look at this. I shall, I shall not, and I am not, and then it becomes nothing, void or mayavad or anything like that.
But you were particularly referring to those pastimes which are like intimate and all this godly stuff. But it's okay to read other
specifically
pastimes.
focus on Krishna's intimate pastimes. It should be restricted for those who are Sevan Mukha. Like Bhaktisiddhanta is giving a thing, chanting for a long time, and very eager and ready to hear those. Not that it's just like, okay, everyone at the Tuesday feast, we're gonna read about, the conjugal pastimes of the Lord and hear about that. Or like, even like, for the Bhakti class today, we're gonna like, recite the narrations of the Ashtakalya Leela. It's be protected. And that way we can, like, it's like basically Prabhupada gave us a process where when we follow it right, then everything automatically comes. So we just have to trust the process. And if we, we just look at the examples of different devotees. I mean, the best example is Prabhupada. Another best example is Ayendra Prabhu. They followed the process and look what they had, look what they got. Prabhupada is the most beautiful person. I think everyone could probably agree with that. And he was just following the simple process given by his guru. It's simple, but it's not easy. So we just have to chant and dance ecstatically and worship Lord Chaitanya and try to follow all these things. Does that sound good? And you just try to, whoever you meet, just tell them about it, how ecstatic it is, and try to get them to do it too. And also add them to Phil's database, because that's the next thing that we need to. We have this Kali Yuga technology and we're not using it. It's a shame. Om Tat Sat. Srimad Bhāgavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. Yeah, so just hear the child